Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have ourselves another Mattel Wild Roar Epic Evolution figure. This is the third in this lineup with only one more to go to hit my channel. We've got ourselves the Megalosaurus, and this is one that I was also very much so looking forward to. It's not one of the ones I was most looking forward to, as I've already, uncovered those here on the channel and reviewed them, but this one would be, again, right here in line, as actually every species in this wave is fantastic. Like, they're all really exciting ones, if you ask me, so definitely hyped to see a Megalosaurus in the Mattel line as well. And the sculpt on this looks really good, and those teeth, look at those teeth, they look great, so much better than the older teeth. But you can see the box art is pretty much the same as we usually see, and then as we turn the box around, you can see again that the back of the box shows off the action feature, which actually looks to potentially be the same action feature we had for the Ecryxenetosaurus. And then down here you can see the checklist for the others that are in this wave, all of which we now have reviewed except for one. So let's pop this box open and check it out. And here is our Megalosaurus. Let's get it kind of standing in a better position. Actually, we'll turn it around. Looks like the legs are not... There we go. They're not working perfectly for me, but we got it, I think, standing pretty nicely. Yeah, it's pretty decent. And it looks really good. Yet again, I actually really quite like the fine detail of this. Mattel is always doing such a great job nowadays when it comes to sculpting the fine detail of their figures. Not that they've ever been bad, because, straight out of the gate, Mattel was out to impress when it comes to their fine detail. But I think over time, they've just gotten so good at this and very creative with the way that they apply skin texture to their dinosaurs, that, again, this is another really, visually impressive looking sculpt when it comes to the fine detail, but overall it just looks really nice. So let's jump to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Megalosaurus, you can see it looks really cool because we have a very, very impressive looking amount of skin texture here on the face, like really large scales, almost armored looking here in the face, especially on the upper jaw here and the head. The lower jaw has almost like your classic sort of scale detail down there with a little bit of larger scales mixed in. But up here, I think the way that they've sculpted out the scale detail is very cool, very creative, and looks really neat. We can also see the nostrils sculpted out, and we have a little bit of a crest for our Megalosaurus. And what's cool is we have, first of all, kind of like a glossy look to that area, but there's this reddish tone that runs up with a little bit of an orangish tone inside the reddish tone. That looks so neat, and it's not the type of paintwork you often see from Mattel. I think it looks a little more lifelike and realistic than what we usually see, so I am definitely a big fan of the way they painted that. You can also see that we've got some greenish tones that kind of run up here through the palette as well, which is also, again, given that kind of satin shine. The eye is painted beautifully with a yellow given a black pupil. It's perfectly placed and sports a nice gloss coat on top of everything. We have a brownish tone for the face, kind of like an orangish brown almost. Then we've got a darker brown here for the lower jaw. You can also see Mattel continues to impress when it comes to the teeth of their figures, because these new teeth look so much better than what we used to get from Mattel. They also have a bendable, sort of a rubbery material for them so that they're nice and safe, but they can still have that genuine sharp look to them. On the inside of the mouth, you can see a really nice, very textured tongue, painted beautifully with a pinkish tone. And we also have that coloration running here up onto the upper side of the inside of the mouth as well, and it all has kind of a satin shine to that as well. Up here on the top of the figure, you will notice that we have a speckling picking up, so we do have some speckles on this one, which is pretty common for Mattel. As you lead back into the neck, you can see that the scale detail becomes a lot more fine, very reptilian leading down, but there are kind of osteoderms and stuff poking up here and there. However, we have this very cool scoot-like appearance moving down along the side of the face, and that area is painted out with a gray. It only runs from here down to here, and that grayish tone then disappears, as does that sort of scoot-like appearance. You can also see we've got some yellowish tones poking up here and there on the back, kind of just wherever, honestly. There doesn't seem to be any real rhyme or reason as far as the placement of those. And we have that darker brown running down here into the throat, but it does disappear as we reach into the chest. As you lead down here, you can see the body again has a nice healthy mixture of that very fine scale detail as well as larger osteoderms, something that is kind of reminiscent to the Ecryxenatosaurus we recently had taken a look at. We've also got very, very reptilian style scale detail moving down into the arms, almost like lizard-like or snake-like scale detail down here. Again, a few more osteoderms poking up there. You can also see some nice muscle definition as well as the fingers sculpted quite beautifully. And again, even though we don't have nail paint, the nails have a little bit of a satin shine to them, which helps to kind of give you the illusion of nail paint. So I do at least appreciate the fact that Mattel has been including that, although I just wish they'd just give them nail paint instead. We do see these sort of scoots pick back up again, running along the lower part of the stomach, which is very interesting as well. That's the only place you really see them here in this spot, because as you move up into the stomach, you again see the fine scale detail and the osteoderms. You can also see more of that yellowish tone kind of showing up here through the course of this area of the dinosaur, even up here, and that yellowish tone overtakes the button here on the back for the action feature, but it then does disappear as we lead back. You see one last little hint of it right here, and then it's gone entirely from the figure, and we're left with the orangish brown tone for the rest of the body. As you move down here, you see more of those scoots, kind of like what we see here, running down the front of the thigh, some more osteoderms, and more of that very reptilian style scale detail like you see in the arm moving down. Also the muscle definition nicely displayed, as well as the calf muscle, and you can kind of see the knee, but it's almost hidden with those scoots. As you move down, you see more scoots showing up here in the foot, running down the toes. The nails again have a nice sculpt, but also a gloss coat to them, so they shine and kind of give you a little bit of an illusion of nail paint without actually having nail paint. The dew claw also actually has received that. I love that they'll give the dew claw kind of like a satin shine, but almost always when they do include any sort of nail paint, they always skip that area. And then you lead back up here again, you pick back up on those same scoots that are running here. They show up here kind of moving out from behind the thigh, and then we again have all sorts of really cool skin wrinkles and stuff and skin creases as you move back, which I really like. More osteoderms poking up here and there. You can see there are ridges moving along the back of the dinosaur. They kind of start out very sporadic and then pick back up in a little bit more of a cluster as they follow along the spinal column of the dinosaur. There's also a really nice curve to the tail, which is something that I feel like we don't see enough in these Mattel figures, is a curve that's as strong as that, but it looks really cool. And again, we have those scoots following out, the osteoderms kind of following along those scoots, and more really nice skin wrinkles and stuff leading out, as well as those speckles. But outside of the speckles, we don't see any other sort of coloration. You can see some pretty cool looking scale detail running along the underside of the dinosaur, very fine scale detail down here on the underside of our Megalosaurus. And once we turn it around, everything is of course going to look pretty much the same. The eye looks great on this side as well. All of the paint looks really cool up there in the face. And again, we also have the variation of color moving through like we saw on the other side. The arms are of course articulated, so it's up to you to pose them. The leg is leading on this side, whereas the leg is trailing on the other side, and the tail curves toward us on this side, but that's probably the only big differences you're going to see from one side to the other when it comes to that. As far as articulation goes, of course we do have the articulated jaw, but that's part of the action feature, as is the neck articulation. You do have arm articulation forward and back, but it is very jerky. And then you also have the ability to move the arm out away from the body. Then you have the leg articulation, which is actually really smooth, just like we saw in the Ecryxenatosaurus, but they don't go out away from the body anymore. They used to, but now they don't. And then you also have the swivel tail here for the figure. But that is definitely a really cool looking Megalosaurus, and honestly a lot better in person than I was even expecting. And even though it's upside down currently, there is the fax app code, which I forgot to show off before, just in case you wanted to add this one to your collection. But as far as the action feature goes, again, we've got the button. Kind of similar to the Ecryxenatosaurus. It almost feels like it chomps at different times compared to the other one, but pretty similar overall. Also some pretty nice noises for the figure. If we stand it again in a nice natural position and check out a size, first of all, Gotta move it up so we can get the tail in screen. Now I just moved the legs and almost knocked it over. Seems like it wants to stand like that, so I guess we'll just measure it like that, even if this leg's a little bit further forward than it probably should be. Lengthwise from the tail to the snout, you're looking at a hair under 12 inches or just a little over 30 centimeters. And then for a height to the back of the neck, about 5 inches or just under 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Megalosaurus. And this is another of those instances where I really don't think we need very many comparisons, because at this point we've had so many figures in this size range, again, like the Wild Roar or the Roarivore, however you want to term them. Roar Attack, I think they were at one point in time as well. Size range that we often already know what the size is of these theropods and stuff, because they always follow a very similar size range. But we will do one other comparison just to kind of show you that, as we have the Ecryxenatosaurus stepping in here as well next to the Megalosaurus. And you can see they're pretty much the same size, which is, again, that same similar size range that you usually see for Mattel theropods in this size range. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Epic Evolution Wild Roar Megalosaurus is another awesome figure. Absolutely hyped for this one. The sculpt is so good on this. Just like with the Ecryxenatosaurus, this might be one of Mattel's best waves of these figures ever, like not just recently, like ever, because every species is incredible and every sculpt is so beautifully done. There's a lot of very unique looking skin texture and tons of variation of the skin texture as you move through the course of this Megalosaurus. And again, it's got such a cool and, as always, very unique look to it that I think it would stand out nicely in comparison to most other Mattel theropods. On top of that, we've got some pretty cool paint apps for it. Again, it could have used a little more paint running out onto the tail, which is very common from Mattel, but for the most part, I really like the paint, and especially up there in that crest area, I really like that coloration, and the fact that it has a satin shine is surprisingly nice. The eye, as far as like the way it's glossed as well, is really nice. Like, it looks super lifelike and realistic. Of course, the addition of those new teeth is one of the most exciting aspects, I think, about the mainline Mattel figures that we've seen in a long time, because they look so good on these figures. And as always, we've got some nice articulation. For the most part, it's pretty smooth and a pretty cool action feature, very similar to what we had seen on the Ecryxenatosaurus as far as the action feature goes. Works nicely and also sports some pretty fun sounds for the dinosaur, and of course also gives us the option to kind of pose the dinosaur when you move the head and you want to leave it in a certain spot. You can do that with this action feature. So overall, this is an awesome figure, again, an awesome species choice, and it's really nicely brought to life here by Mattel. So if you are interested in picking this up, just like I had said in the last few reviews, I got this one from my good friend Plush Boy Q, so I have to give him a massive thank you and a shout out. But if you want to find one, again, he found these at his local Walmart, so that's where you should probably head to try to find them and see if your Walmart has them. If they don't now, they will soon. And also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.